Polaris has done their 2026 release. Let's talk about it, and then let's get into what I'm going to snow check for next year. So Mountain Toys in Cochrane, Alberta was hosting a little reveal party. They had the reveal up on the big screen and provided some pizza and some drinks for everybody. So I made my way to Cochrane to join the group there. Funny thing is, as I was filming the B-roll of everybody watching the reveal, I actually missed it. So that just goes to show how little there was in the mountain segment. And the mountain segment is the only part I'm going to touch on. Clearly, there's not much to dive into. So what exactly was the big reveal this year? It was some limited edition sleds. Polaris's big claim was bold style, exclusive premium paint and graphics for an enhanced design. Obviously a little disappointing. I didn't have really any expectations for this year. I didn't think it was going to be a big reveal for them, but you know, you always want a little something. Even last year with the new throttle cable and a couple little adjustments, it's something. The majority of people these days are just getting a wrap anyways. So, you know, it kind of defeats the purpose of a bold factory sled when the majority of people, if they want to be that bold, they just go get themselves an aftermarket wrap. So the second part to the limited edition sleds are the Barant accessories. So you've got a new front and rear bumper and then a handlebar bag. So looking at the bumpers, visually they're not all that appealing. To me, it's a no-brainer to run backwoods. They have proven themselves time and time again, especially this season with my boost. They single-handedly saved my boost from getting written off. So for me, when we're talking bumpers, it's an absolute no-brainer. The handlebar bag, it's a cool little addition, there's no doubt, but again, just not something I'm really thinking about when I'm thinking about a new year's release. I'm not thinking about handlebar bags. Another interesting thing with the limited edition sleds are they only come in a 155. It's definitely the most popular length nowadays, but it's still interesting that they're only giving you that one option. And I did play around in the snow checking tool with them as well. And essentially the only choice you get are the engine, 9R or boost, and track, the 2.75 or the 3.25. That is it. So it doesn't specify whether they come with electric start or manual start. They do come with the 7S. Pretty interesting. They weren't kidding when they said limited edition, because you are very, very limited with your options. So when looking at the limited sleds, I was very, very surprised to see that the price difference between a boost and a 9R in the limited is only $600. That to me is insane. For only $600, you can get a turbo sled over an NA sled. Obviously, the majority of people are just gonna pay the extra $600 and get a turbo sled, and you'd almost be crazy not to, which to me is a big shame, because I've been a huge advocate of NA sleds and I think they are so capable, and I think they could benefit a lot of people if they chose an NA over the boost. The NA is just a little more predictable and a little easier to handle and to progress on. The boost is a handful, and honestly, it's a lot more than most people need. But when there's only a $600 price difference, I don't blame anybody for wanting to go for the big bad boost in that case. Definitely very strange that there's such a small price difference. In previous years, they were usually around $1,500 between the two. Not sure if Polaris has bigger plans for that, if they're trying to get rid of a ton of boosts because they've got a 9R boost coming up next year. Who knows? So all in all, like I said, I did not have high expectations, but even then, this still kind of fell short, unfortunately. So you might be asking, why am I even snow checking? Well, if you guys have been watching the channel, I had the privilege to ride in Mountain Toys 9R demo sled this season. And so myself and Ben from SRP have created a really awesome relationship with the team at Mountain Toys. And so Mountain Toys has given myself and Ben the opportunity to hand pick 2 of their demo sleds that we're gonna get the opportunity to ride. So despite the lackluster reveal, we are still gonna get some new 2026s coming. So follow me along, let's dive into the website and let's build one. But first we gotta answer the big question: boost or 9R? What am I gonna get? Well, if you guys have been following along this season, you know that I really fell in love with that 9R. Man, it just worked so well. Really catered to my riding style, which is mostly technical tree riding. And so that 9R was just so hard to beat. It just felt so light and the instant throttle response was just absolutely incredible in the trees. That being said, I'm going to be snow checking a 9R again. So I will be keeping my boost. I want to have the best of both worlds. The big bad boost for those really deep days, but also to have that NA that's a little better in lower snow conditions or maybe on a very specific tree riding day. So it's going to be really awesome to have the two options to pick from. Okay, let's jump onto the customizer and let's build ourselves a sled. So here we are, the main page. Of course, we're going to be going with the RMK. So now Pro versus Khaos. This is another big question. All of my previous Polarises have been pros. They work extremely well for what I like to do. Like I said, the majority of my riding is technical tree riding. And so having a very planted, very predictable Pro RMK is king in those situations. Then you do have those days where you're wanting to do some bow ties, hop overs, and you definitely notice the difference. The Pro is so planted, it is almost difficult to get the skis up. Even on my 155 boost, I can barely get the thing to wheelie. We're trying to get some cool super slow-mo shots and putting everything I have to pull back on this thing. It just wants to come down and move forward, which is awesome if that's what you want, but they really, really lack on the playfulness. So I'm gonna change it up. I kind of want the NA to be a little more of a playful ride for me. Once again, I've got my boost, which is gonna be kind of get work done, deep snow machine, and I want a light, fun, rowdy NA. So we're gonna go with the Khaos. Engines, we talked about that already. For me, it's gonna be a 9R. And now the next big question, track length. This one I've been contemplating quite a bit because the 9R I was riding was a 165. So I've been on a 155 for the last few years, and riding this 165 definitely made me question that. It was a 165 Khaos, so it still had that playfulness, but that extra track length was pretty nice, I'm not gonna lie. It was quite a nice combination, having that long track for when you wanna get work done and get places, but also it being a Khaos still had that really playfulness when you wanted it to, and especially being a heavier guy, I weigh in the 230s to 240s without any gear. So in the deep snow, the short track with a big Milwaukee on the tunnel, it definitely gets lugged down with a heavier guy. But like I said, this one I'm going for a more rowdy, a light, aggressive sled that is a little more playful. So I'm gonna go with the 155. And now between the 2.75 or the 3.25, out of those two tracks, I would definitely choose the 3.25. However, we're gonna be going with something different. So since I'm not gonna be using the track that's coming with this sled, just gonna go with the cheaper option because it's actually a $500 upgrade to get the 3.25. So the Series 8 is what we're going with. So looking at the colors, our first three options are the same between the Khaos and the Pro, which they're not too bad. I'm a big fan of blue, so this hemlock blue looks pretty nice. I'm a little disappointed how out of all these 5 colors, you only get one tunnel option with one of the colors. The classic black, we've got this red, and if we choose the red rails and spindles, not bad. I'm not a huge red guy personally, but this is just a very, very clean look. So these are the 3 options, both common to the Khaos and the Pro. So now we dive into the premium options for the Khaos. We've got this matte Cascade Green and White Lightning. This one definitely stands out to me right off the bat. I've always loved the look of white sleds, and this green is pretty sharp, and I always love the matte along with the gloss. That combination always looks pretty cool. Once again, a little disappointing that you don't have the option of that same Cascade Green tunnel or even a white tunnel here. I think that would really set this off, but unfortunately, no option. Then we get our second premium color, in which this is the one we now get the option for the neon tunnel. So both premium colors come with a price tag of an extra $600. And then if you want to get that tunnel, that's another $190. So pretty sharp. I do love the neon. I love bright. There's no doubt about it. But the sagebrush green, it's not doing a lot for me at the front. So I think for me, it's gonna be this matte Cascade Green, the White Lightning. So let's go ahead and lock in this. Now, as far as options, For myself, I always just go with the manual start. I don't see the need of the electric start and the extra weight for it. I don't mind pulling. These new sleds pull over so easily, so for me, it's a manual start. High elevation, of course. The Khaos only comes with the Velocity Walker Evans shocks. And now they actually only come with these low rise bars. You used to be able to go low, medium, and high. Now they only come with the low, which is what I would get anyways, but interesting that they no longer have the option. The 7S is an absolute must on these sleds. So there we have it, our 2026 Patriot 9R RMK Khaos 155. And let's just say it is not gonna be staying stock. Myself, Ben with SRP, and the Mountain Toys team have a lot planned for these sleds. I think it's gonna be very, very cool. You guys are gonna wanna stay tuned. And just a little teaser, Ben, his sled that he's gonna be snow checking will be a boost. So it'll be really cool to have the opportunity to ride a 2026 boost as well. But personally, I'm really excited to spend more time on the 9R. So thanks for chatting. There's clearly not a whole lot to discuss as far as the new release, but I'm pretty excited to get in here, customize the new sled for next year, and I just want to say another huge thank you to Mountain Toys for this opportunity, and thank you guys for your support. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't get these opportunities, so thank you. Hit that subscribe button, stay tuned, because I promise you, you're gonna want to see what we end up doing with this sled.